I would like you to open the soft copy, okay, of the study material, and especially course number 7, Classical Arabic Prose and Poetry. And you should open this unit number 46. So الشعر العربي الشعر العربي في العهد الجاهلي. Okay. الشعر العربي في العهد الجاهلي. Unit number 46. Okay, are you able to get it? Unit 46. Okay. So just a cursory glance, and here you see uh, نشأة الأدب الجاهلي وتطوره. Okay, a brief history of this. Okay, so ما هو الأدب الجاهلي؟ الأدب الجاهلي. Okay, الجاهلي. What is الأدب الجاهلي? Uh, it is, al-Asr al-Jahili is a period, pre-Islamic period also is called al-Asr al-Jahili. And the word Jahili does not mean that people were completely ignorant. They Jahili because they were not, following certain, you know, values, moral values, and all these. So uh, they were, like they had deviated from the right path, and uh, certain, you know uh, superstitions, certain customs, certain things which were prevalent during the time of, in Arabian Peninsula or that part of the world, were not any based on moral values. So in that sense, it is al-Asr al-Jahili. Otherwise, it had, flourishing Arabic literature, and there you can see some of the finest poetry of the period. Okay, of Arabic can be found from that period. So there was a kind of passion for poetry, and people from, uh, you know from different tribes used to compete with each other, especially in in the field of Arabic poetry. And there used to be some special, what they call aswaq, or now souk is market. So some special aswaq, markets, but not for, purely for purpose of exchanging goods, but more than that, these aswaq were devoted for poetry. So some eminent poets from different tribes used to come and, deliver their composition, and recite the poetry in front of a panel of judges, who then declared the winner, okay, or the finest poetry of the time. So a large number of poets, in fact, got recognition through these aswaq, where, and then their kalam, or their, qasida, was recognized and appreciated by everyone. So then it got the honor of being put on the main entrance of, Holy Kaaba, where people from across the nook and corner of Arabia used to come every year and see the and appreciate the beauty of that, lines, or that, qasida, or that poetry. So it was, like, hanging there on the main entrance of Holy Kaaba, so that anybody can come and see it and appreciate it. Okay, so that was the kind of, flourishing Arab culture of poetry, which gave birth to, some of the finest Arabic poems, even which we know till today. So uh, Al-Mu'allaqat, that is the word, Mu'allaqa, from Mu'allaqa, Mu'allaqat. Mu'allaqat is hanging words or hanging poems, which were composed during pre-Islamic time and which were declared as the finest forms of poetry, during by the panel of eminent or distinguished judges, uh, and then it got the honor of being put on the main entrance of Holy Kaaba, and for the people to come and read and appreciate them. Okay, so that is how it is called. Why it is called Al Muallaqat. So you have this Al Muallaqat Al Saba, or Al Muallaqat Al Sitta. Uh, some people say there are seven such type of poems. Some say six. Some even go up to and say 10. Okay, so people differ in fact in number of muallaqat that were there or were produced during those time. But the fact is that yes, number may differ, maybe six or seven or 10, but there were some these gems of poetic records which are available till today, and they continue to inspire not only great poets and writers, but also even those common people who come to read Arabic poetry also to or can appreciate these poetic compositions. So الشعر العربي في العهد الجاهلي في العهد الجاهلي, or Arabic poetry during what we call al-ahad al-jahili. So we just I started by saying that al-jahili word, that does not mean that they were completely illiterate, ignorant, illiterate maybe, but ignorant. Okay, so it is not, it was not al-asr al-jahili in the sense ignorance era, or there was nothing. Okay, no, it was in the sense that there was no, of course, that kind of enlightenment. Okay, so some kind of Bedouin life was there, but of course they had some of the best tradition of literary production, especially poetry and others. So uh, 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 it is ala asul jahili or al ahadul jahili because of uh, this reason that they were, as I told, they deviated from the right path. They were not following the teachings of Islam properly. They could not till then had got the message, in fact. Okay, and received the message, and whatever earlier messengers had given to them, in fact they were not able to follow it properly. So they lacked that certain social and moral and religious values, in fact, and that is why they were in that called in a philosophy jahili. Otherwise, they had some of the finest Arabic poetry, and they could produce, which are recognized even today. Then second thing is al-muallaqa, which I discussed again, and I'm repeating that al-muallaqa because these were the poems, finest poems, which were produced during the period, and declared by eminent panel of eminent judges as the finest poems of the time, and they were put on the main entrance of Holy Kaaba, and people from across Arab world used to come and appreciate those poems. So that is why it is al-muallaqa, al-muallaqa. Okay. So this is a main component or the large chunk of al-adab al-jahili or the poetry of the jahili period is in the form of muallaqat. Okay, now this unit or chapter does have information about this al-muallaqat wa ahamiyatuha. So I think you should read this 1.4, and this is very important because whenever we talk about Muallaqat, are the forms of poetry which gain recognition. So this is very important. Al muallaqat wa ahamiyatuha, and here you can find the details of that, what kind of poetry it was, and who were the main poets associated with this. So Shu'ara al muallaqat hum Imrul Qais, many of you might have heard about him, wa Tarfa ibn al Abd, وزهير بن أبي سلمى ولبيد بن ربيعة وعمر بن كلثوم وعنترة بن شداد والنابغة الزبياني والعاشا ميمون وعبيد وكذا وكذا. Okay, these are the eminent poets associated with al muallaqat, and uh, so these, I think you should read it several times, or you can prepare note with the help of this, al muallaqat wa hamiyat wa. It You should read this. Then, what type of poetry this Jahiliya or poetry was? Is this poetry of Al-Asr al-Jahili? What type of poetry was it? It was so funun here, funun al-Shi'r al-Jahili wa gharaduhu, and here different. So this Jahili period poetry did have certain forms like al-Ghazal. Now, al-Ghazal, most of us do think that Ghazal is only Persian thing. Okay, it originated from Persia and it came to Arabic from there, Urdu poetry from there, and very few people, in fact, trace the origin to Arab or Arabic poetry. But if you read carefully all the qasida, okay, or especially qasida by Imrul Qais, uh, you find that there are certain a large number of couplets which are purely in the form of ghazal. Okay, so we must trace the origin of ghazal to that period. Any that is the period of al jahiliya, al asr al jahili. And on this, in fact, I wrote a research article, and that is available. You can see this in Darasat from Jawaharlal University, Darasat Arabiya, that is a journal, and there you will find my article there, research article on. And I tried my best, in fact, to prove that yes, ghazal mainly, in fact, originated from Arabiya, and only it came means from there it came to Persian, and it got a lot of recognition there. And in fact, Persian poets did popularize it a lot, especially poetry of Hafiz. Persian poet is famous for ghazal, and then from there it came to Urdu, and here you find like many poets, especially Ghalib, okay, who popularized this. So Al Ghazal, okay, and its importance you can see. I think the year is Darasat Arabiya, year 2022. That is the one available on internet. So if you want to see it, you can, okay, and you can share among your friends. Okay, so the idea is to bring this to popularize the idea that ghazal is purely is originally Arabic. Okay, and from that it has sprung, and it is now available in other, especially in Urdu. Okay. So Al-Qasida, Qasida by Imrul Qais, and many other eminent poets, in fact, does have some form of ghazal. So ghazal is one of the most important component of al-Jahili, Sher al-Jahili. Then al-Madih, Madih, the kind of society that Arabs lived. If you might have read about it, that Arabs used to boast about them, okay, about their greatness, about the greatness of their fathers and forefathers, and their about their wealth and their name and fame and their dignity and their 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 bravery and all these kinds of things. In fact, they used to sing, okay, in their poems, and they used to popularize it. So al-madih uh, was another important thing where praising those, especially those in power, and it was one of the most common feature of poetry of the time. So uh, uh, and talking about all these, so praise, poetry, which is always uh, poets had this habit of praising and exaggerating sometimes, okay. So especially their generosity, okay, that and and making fun of those who were not uh, coming forward to spend money, and they those who never in fact care about those about guests and all this. So good hospitality was always appreciated, bravery was appreciated, and helping others, and um especially in war and other, it was appreciated. And so certain, yeah, they claim to had certain universal, moral values. Okay, certain values, not moral, but you can say at least social values, which they really cherished, and they wanted others to follow. And this is really, reflected in Arabic poetry. The most important thing about Arabic, pre-Islamic poetry is that it is called ash-shi'r, especially ash-shi'r qabla Islam, ash-shi'r diwan al-Arab. Okay, so it is called as a register of Arab. Okay, Arab society. It mirrors the Arab society. It reflects the, people's customs and traditions and values, and their activities, and their behavior and everything, uh, and the kind of the people they were. So it is also record of history also. Okay, if you want to know about that period, it is the best, one of the best sources, okay, to understand the people of pre-Islamic period, pre-Islamic Arabs. Okay, so everything, uh, is recorded there, in through Arabic poetry. So that is why it is called Ash-Shi'ru Diwan Arab. Okay, Diwan Arab. Now, talking about certain features, so we have discussed about this Al Ghazal, that was there. Al Madih is, like, you eulogize someone, or you praise highly, okay, that somebody has done some wonderful, someone who fought the war and won the war and was the real, instrument for causing the defeat of the enemy, was really held in high esteem, and was, considered the leader. So praising the leaders, and warriors, uh, and mm, great men of the society was the custom of the time and tradition of the period. So that you can find, time and again in Arabic poetry, especially in the poetry of Al-Jahili period. Then al-fakhr, again, as I told you, that taking pride in their, so Arabs used to take pride in their tribe, in their customs and tradition, in their generosity, in their hospitality, in their in greatness, in comparison to, other other tribes, and their ability to defeat the enemy, and mm, uh, they even used to take pride in their, sometimes their horse, the unique kind of horse that they, possessed, and all these. So this all that, okay, so there is a poet in Jahiliya, and his poems are available in Al Hamasa. So he says that, about his horse, he says, "Wafaddatun mukarramtun alayna, Yuja'u lahal ayalu wa la tuja'u." Okay, so he says that this is my horse, very precious, and we can sacrifice ourselves for his sake, and we can, that we respect so much, this horse, that yuja'u lahal ayalu wa la tuja'u, that even our children can be kept hungry, but this horse of mine cannot be. Okay, so the horse will have to have the food, no matter, whether others get or not. Even my family members can be kept hungry, but not this horse of mine. Okay, so this is very precious horse, and I cannot, sell it. I cannot bargain. I cannot compromise. Okay, so this will live with all these pomp, and dignity, and so this was like a honor. Okay, having horse was honor, and they used to take pride in that how, what we say, kind of unique horse they could possess. And because the horse was used, in fact, during battle, and during war, it was one of the most so important, you can say, sources for the victory and defeat, especially victory in the war. So they used to hold horse in high esteem. So Al Fakhr, when we talk about, that they used to take pride in certain things, especially the kind of the, clan they came from, or the society they came from, and the Aba is that what we call, forefathers, and the lineage. Okay, all these. So they used to take pride. They used to take pride in their hospitality. Their, Ikram's wife was one of the most, giving good hospitality to the guest was one of the greatest thing they used to take pride in, and such type of things were very important in Arab society. So al-fakhr was also, so this is reflected in Arabic poetry. When you read that, all these al-mu'allaqat, and or you read the poetry contained in the book Al-Hamasa by Abi Tammam. So there you find certain poems which do mention all these things. Okay. Now, al-haja is another thing. When they used to praise themselves, they also used to denounce others. Okay, they used to others, put down others, and they other tribes, especially, or other people who came in conflict with them. They used to highlight their weaknesses, and always they criticize them and condemn them, and completely dismiss their achievements and all that. So it was kind of fashion of the day, and poetry was full of all these things. So on the one hand, the poets used to highlight the values, custom, tradition, and greatness of their tribe. On the other hand, they used to denounce others, in fact, who came into contact with them or especially in conflict with them. Okay, so that was another, or especially rival poets also sometimes. So a poet from one tribe who was famous, and got name and fame. Why? Because he was like a specialist in condemning others or making others completely uh, weak. So poetry was one form of encouragement, a form of, it was also a matter of badge of honor for the tribe, that a poet could maintain or could popularize that tribe among the people, and could sing the greatness of that tribe, and denounce others who. This was also important component of this. So al-hija, that is also important. Then another thing is al-hikmah, and that is the wisdom. So poetry, if you read al-muallaqat, and especially the muallaqa of Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, you will find that he has mentioned a large number of couplets which deal with wisdom. So uh, now reading these poems, in fact, remind us how come these people be known as people of al jahiliyyah, or al jahili shura al jahiliyun, or the period from or people from jahili period, or poets from the jahili period. So that is, that's why I explained the beginning, that jahili, mana al jahili, meaning of the jahili. When you say al asrul jahili or the jahili poets, so what does it mean? It is not not in the meaning of ignorance. Okay, it's not. It is that they were deviated from the right path, and they were following certain customs and traditions which were bad. Okay, and or immoral. Okay, and they were not well aware of certain uh, certain human values. Okay, or certain religious values which came later on, in fact, with the advent of the arrival of Islam, in fact, and they when they came to the fold of this religion, they became completely equipped with certain moral values or religious values which gave them greatness. So that came later on, in fact, but before that, before in Islam, they were following certain customs and tradition, or certain superstitions, or certain bad practices which gave them this title of al jahili. Okay, otherwise they had said, you see, al fakhr, al haja, uh, all these, or especially al hikmah, when you say, they had certain uh, talks of wisdom, and certain things related to wisdom, all that. So uh, we cannot say that they were completely jahili, and jahili in the sense of ignorant people, or so we cannot say. Okay. Now, al-hikmah is one of the important component of Arabic, poetry, and that can be traced to that region. Zuhair ibn Sulma, as I mentioned, is champion of this, and he is a torchbearer, you can say, and greatly he highlighted this, and we even today we continue to read his poems and enjoy and you know admire, appreciate his the beauty. Okay. Then al-wasf. So al-wasf is description of you can say of the nature of the time. Nature means description of the beauty of nature, and description of maybe birds and animals. And they used to bring certain simile and metaphor, which was completely unique and even unparalleled in Arabic poetry. So whatever simile and metaphor uh, has been used, in fact, by Imrul Qais, for example, is unique, and hardly any other poet of later period uh, could match him in simile and metaphor, and in the class, that kind of uniqueness that he could bring to the Arabic poetry. Others period poets of the later period could not even do it. So, and description of society, description of the as I told you, description of the state of nature and condition there, and even uh, birds and animals and all that. It's really beautiful and Arabic, no other words can match them. Okay, so Alwas was one of the most important feature, okay, of that time. So now you have, if there is a suppose question about al-muallaqa, what is al-muallaqa and how it is. So I think you should be able to attempt it, and for that is my lecture only, and my talk is not enough. You need to go through the text and consult all that is there in the those who consult, those who read, and try to know what is al-muallaqa and its history, and they can easily prepare it and write an exam. Those who just ignore, and they will remain in ignorance era. Okay, so we cannot help them much. Okay, so it is up to you how much time you are able to devote. And but this al-muallaqa, I think you should read this in a description about al-muallaqa, and you can prepare some note, you can practice writing whatever suits you, you do for the sake of your forthcoming exam also, and for the sake of adding to your knowledge also, because these are very important. So then main features I have discussed, and here also the same thing is available here in your in this material. So all these al-ghazal, al-madih, al-fakhr, al-haja, al-rath, al-hikmah, al-wasf, all these are important features of poetry of al-asr al-jahili or jahili period. Okay. Now, moving to the next, now 1.6, and here you see نبذة عن حياتي وشعر إمر القيس الكندي. As I told you, Imran Qais is the poet laureate. Okay, he's the one who was honored with this distinction, or had the distinction of Miss this qasida, which was put on the main entrance of Holy Kaaba, and where people could read and appreciate his poetry. So he was the first among those, or finest among those, who got this honor. Okay, so he is the poet laureate, and he is the poet who, you know, had influenced greatly later poetry. Okay, also. So this Imran Qais is very important, Arabic poet, and you need to read him about his life and all that. I think you should read it time and again, and I'm not going to repeat all those things that are there in your study material. Everything is, as you mentioned about him. So you need to go through it and try to, understand, and then you should be able to produce the same. If there is suppose question about Imrul Qais, his life and all that, so you should be able to write that. Okay, so that is my um, I would like to say that focus on him. Okay, Imrul Qais is very important. Now, uh, maybe you have to know the main features of his poems, and like last this paragraph, هو في معلقته رقيق النسيب دقيق الوصف بارع التصوير جزيل اللفظ. Okay, مخلع الأسلوب. uh, all these are kind of features. All right, so you should be able to tell all these, okay, whenever asked. So this is very important, and you should focus on it. And then we start like these are very common and very popular lines, قفا نبكي من ذكرى حبيبي ومنزلي. These are, starting lines of his qasida, which gained a lot of fame. So قفا نبكي من ذكرى حبيبي ومنزلي، بسق اللبا بين الدخول فحوملي، فتوضح فالمقراط لم يعفو رسمها، لما نسجتها من جنوب وشمالي، ترى بعر الآرام في عرصاتها وقيعنها كأنه حب فلفل. Now see the music, okay, the melody and all these rhyme and everything. Okay, that is beautiful. كأني قضاة البين يوم تحملوا لدى سمرات الحي واقف حنظلي، وقوفا بها صحبي علي وقيهم يقولون لا تحلف أسوا وتجملي. So وإن شفائي حبرة مراقة، فهل عند رسم دارس من محوّل، فهل عند رسم دارس من معضل، كدأبك من أم الحويرث قبلها، وجارتها أم الرباب بمأسل، ففاضت دموع العين مني صبابة على النحر، حتى بل دمعي محملي. Okay. So all these, lines. These are lines that you should read, again and again, and appreciate amidst uh, beauty there. So قفا نبكي. Now you should be able to explain these. Okay. قفا نبكي من ذكرى حبيبي ومنزلي، بسق اللواء بين الدخول. I I will not be able to translate it because of the constraint of time here, right? But I think this translation of these poems or explanation is available, everywhere. So you can even, several sources are there on the internet. You can find the meaning of all that. Okay, كيف نبكي من ذكرى حبيب ومنزلي، بسقي اللباب بين الدخول فحوملي. And the background of the poem also, so you can read the background. Why did he say all these, and when, and what was the context in which he did. So it's really, but this is the poetry which is being referred by several eminent, uh, critics and scholars, all in different periods of time, and many others, poets also have followed the same his pattern. Okay. uh, but these lines are very important, so I think that you should focus on it and try to you know understand this. All right. Only just mentioning in the, like, in this chapter or this study material is not enough, and just reading is not enough. You need to understand, okay, all these lines. So now next, a poet, a very important Jahili poet. If you can see this 1.8, Hayat Ushair Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma. Uh, he is one of the greatest poets of Jahili period, and he became famous you know because of the poetry of uh, al-hikmah. Al-hikmah is wisdom poetry. Okay, so uh, you can see here now. Uh, 1.9 abiyat min شعر زهير ibn Abi Sulma. I am not reading the all this hayat wa sha'r, and not giving you all that, because that is again already there. So I wish that you can read it and prepare, okay, about him in the light of the text that or the material that we have given 1.8. Okay, so go through it and prepare. Abiyat are very important, and they deal with the al-hikmah especially. Now, 1.8, and if you his more important poems of his, or lines, or these uh, you know which are given here. So now, line 1, uh, then 3, 4, 5, 6. If I can start from here. سئمت سئمت تكاليف الحياة ومن يعيش 80 حولا لا أبا لك يسأمي. Now this is very important line. صئمت تكاليف الحياة ومن يغش 80 حولا لا أبا لك يسمي رأيت المنايا خط عشواء من تصب طمته ومن تخطي يعمر فيحرمي وعالم علم اليوم والأمس قبله ولكنني عن علم ما في غد عمي ومن لا يسعني في أمور كثيرة يغرس بأنياب ويعطى بمنسم ومن يك ذا فضل فيبخل بفضله على قومه يستغنى عنه ويذمم ومن يجعل المعروف من دون عرضه يفره ومن لا يتقي الشر ويشتمي ومن لا يثد عن حوضه بصلاحه يهدم ومن لا يظلم الناس يظلم. Okay, and these many more in fact, and all in fact deal with this. These, and the last line ومهما تكون عند امرئ من خليقة وإن خالها تخفى على الناس تعلمي. Okay, so these are very important lines. But I am, just I recited before you. Uh, but I really wanted one of you at least come forward and read it. I will be very happy if you can do it, one of you. Especially starting from شعر إمرؤ القيس وقفا نبكي من ذكرى 1.7. Okay, go back to that 1.7. Can any of you recite these lines? Let me hear from you. Okay, can anybody come forward and read it? This especially إمرؤ القيس قفا نبكي من ذكرى حبيبي ومنزلي بسقط اللباء بين الدخول فحوملي. Can anybody do it? Any of you? Anyone? Can anybody do it? Okay. Okay. Go back whenever you are at home. You should try and try to read and try to because see during exam you have to you need to attempt and then explain all these. So how can you do without preparation and without if you are not able to read it and explain it? Okay. Now, again, coming back to this Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, I, read before you these lines, and uh, these lines, you know, highlight certain important facts of life and uh, certain things which every person should observe. Okay, as a part of moral values. Okay, so he has given, and his poetry, as I told you, is called the poetry of wisdom. Okay, so Zuhair ibn Sulma is very famous in that. Now, you have these, and then you have here some exercises on these texts. So, uh, exercises are designed to help you, consolidate your learning and try to motivate you to go for self learning because most of the time teachers are not there, so you have to practice on your own. So that is why you find all these questions and tadribat or exercises for these. Okay, so and then some uh, tadribat, uh, meaning, word meaning, and all that. Okay, are there. So basically, the poetry of Jahili period is the poetry of al Muallaqat. Basically, okay, Muallaqat is famous for Muallaqat, and uh, the some of the greatest poets of the period were Imrul Qais, Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, Anab Ghazubiani, Asha, and Tarfa ibn Abd, Antara ibn Shaddad, Labid bin Nabiya also. Okay, So all these poets gained a lot of name and fame, and they continue to inspire the generation of poets even today. Okay. Now, Arabic. This was Arabic poetry, and it's not there are certain more details, in fact, about this Arabic poetry, but we have highlighted certain parts only, and it's up to you how much detail you can uh, go into, how much detail you want, and for the sake of adding to your knowledge, you can, the world is open to you. Okay, so you can add, but this much, I think the material that is has been given is enough for your purpose. And for as a student, I think if you master all that, if you are able to read that and you know understand, then I think that will be enough for you. Now, النثر العربي في الحد الجاهلي, and Arabic prose. This was poetry, but what about prose? Okay, was there certain was the prose also in some form or not? Now, yes, the answer is yes. There was النثر, there was prose, and what kind of prose? Okay, was it written like this as prose as we see today these days in books? If you see, most of the prose was in the form of al-khataba, a khatib, okay, oratory. So that was the form, because uh, writing was not that much popular during the period, and very few people knew how to write, you know uh, but and paper that we see today was not available during the time, and forget about the printing and photocopy and all that. That was hardly there. It was not there. So anyway, paper that we see today was not there, so they used to write on certain things, maybe certain, like leaves of tree, and some animal skin, maybe dried skin, okay, maybe on stones and all that, or wood, maybe. Okay, so writing was not that popular. Okay, only thing popular was in like oral tradition was there. So they used to tell stories, they used to tell certain uh, uh, convey the message orally, and the people used to memorize it and then pass on to the next persons or next generation. So that was the oral tradition. Everything was written. Written was very little. Practice of writing was very little, was not known there much. So in that sense, what flourished most was the al-khataba, oratory. So whatever message people wanted to convey, they used to convey through a form called al-khataba. So khatib was very popular, and al-khataba oratory was very popular among those people. And that is why we find that Arabic prose of the period in this form only, in the form of al-khataba. Okay, so there are many, in fact, people who excelled in this, in the art, and uh, like Qus ibn Sa'ada al-Ayadi, and Ka'b ibn Luay, and others, in fact. Okay, so they became famous in this form of prose, but the prose was not as we see it today. It prose was in the form of like mm, in the form of oratory only. Now, now we move to the Al-Ahadul Islami and Islamic period, and we can open next unit number 47, that is An-Nathul Arabi fil Ahad al-Islami, and here Arabic prose flourished during Islamic period. So uh, uh, what kind of prose was there during Islamic period? Can anybody answer it? What kind of prose we had during Islamic period? Can anyone answer? An example, prose, example of prose during Islamic period. Anybody? You can write also, or you can speak. One of the most important examples or famous examples of Arabic prose is Holy Quran itself. Okay, it was revealed in Arabic language, and this book has the finest example of Arabic prose, and so here you find some examples, okay, in this text. And al hadith also, sayings of the prophets or traditions, also did have some examples of the finest prose in Arabic, and they continue to remain uh, very popular and famous example of prose writing. Okay, so Quran, hadith, okay, and hadith both are the best examples of Arabic prose during uh, Islamic period. Then al khataba and khataba, or khataba al mu'jiza li Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet himself used to deliver sermon, and these sermons contain some of the finest examples of Arabic prose. You can say, okay, so some of the finest. Now, for example, and example is there in your text, in fact, and there are several text, but here some text have been selected, and you find you can open this 3.4 if I think you are able to open it. 3.4 نماذج نماذج من الخطابة في صدر الإسلام. الخطابة المعجزة لرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. Are you able to open it? 3.4. And here you see, this is the sample, okay, the kind of the language and the beauty of this text, okay, just you read and you admire it, okay. uh, you see the power of the language, and how effective it is, and in such a wonderful emotional emotional appeal, and which hardly can be found anywhere, in fact. So al khataba, and here see 3.4, and where النبي يلقي الخطبة أو يقول للأنصار. And what does he say? He starts by saying, okay, يا معشر الأنصار، ما بلغتني عنكم وجدتموها في أنفسكم، ألم آتكم ضلالا فهداكم الله بي، وعالة فأغناكم الله بي، وأعداء فألف بين قلوبكم، قالوا الله ورسوله أمن وأفضل. ثم قال ألا تجيبوني يا معشر الأنصار، ألا تجيبوني يا معشر الأنصار، قالوا بماذا نجيبك يا رسول الله، لله ورسوله المن والفضل. قال أما والله لو شئتم لقلتم فلصدقتكم ولصدقتكم، أتيتنا مكذبا فصدقناك، مخذولا فنصرناك، وطريدا فآويناك، وعائلا فواسيناك. أوجدتم علي يا معشر الأنصار في أنفسكم في لعاعة من الدنيا تألفت بها قوما ليسلموا، ووكلتكم إلى إسلامكم. ألا ترضون يا معشر الأنصار أن يذهب الناس بالشاي والبعير، وترجعون برسول الله إلى رحالكم، فوالذي نفس محمد بيده لما تنقلبون به خير مما ينقلبون به، ولولا الهجرة لكنتم امرا من الأنصار، ولو سلك الناس شعبا مباديا وسلكت الأنصار شعبا مباديا لسلكت شعب الأنصار واديا. الأنصار الشعار والناس الدثار، اللهم ارحم الأنصار، اللهم ارحم الأنصار وأبناء الأنصار وأبناء أبناء الأنصار. Okay, now see the power, okay. Mm, yeah, the appeal, the emotional appeal, and effect that it could have on the mind of those people, uh, and when it happened, in fact, during a ghazwa, uh, when some people booty of the war, in fact, some people got it more, in fact, or the prophet in fact distributed among them, and others could not, okay. get, especially Ansar people. They were not able to get that much, so they started complaining and about it, that why Prophet did deprive us from this. So, and this matter was raised to Prophet. Then he invited the people and started addressing them by saying that, what is this that we have, I am listening about all these things, what is this, okay, that you are discussing among yourself. And then he started giving these things, and finally he mentioned about their contribution, contribution of Ansar, and how they had given him shelter when he had no shelter, how they had helped him when he was helpless, and how these Ansar people had um, had had uh, had accepted him when the people had rejected him. So all these things he had mentioned in such in an appealing tone and in a beautiful manner, that really rings, it brings the heart, and it blows the mind. So it's indeed mind blowing. And he says that, don't you are you not happy with this, that many people may take these you know uh, goat and uh, these camel and goat to their home? Are you not happy with this, that people may take goat and camel to their home, and you take your prophet along with you, and you take him to your home? No. So don't you are you not happy with this? So this kind of language, this kind of emotional appeal, this kind of impact that it had on the mind of the people is mind blowing, and it's completely unprecedented. No, khutbah, no sermon, in fact, in the history could be delivered in such a powerful manner, in such a magical manner, that this one we find. Okay, so this is a beautiful piece. I think you should read time and again, try to decipher the meaning, and this will be really very important for you to try to do it as much as you can. Okay. Then there are other sermons like Khutbah li Abi Bakr as-Siddiq, Abu Bakr, and then Khutbah li Umar ibn al-Khattab. So great caliphs of the time, and they delivered their sermons in different occasions. And here you find Khutbah to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Okay, and that is also there. So all these you should mention, all that is there. Okay, I think you should focus on all these, but the most important thing that you need to focus, khutbah is khutbah of Nabi, khutbah Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it was really a very powerful speech, powerful sermon, which moved the uh, heart, and it was great. Okay, so. So now we conclude that this period was famous for flourishing of Arabic prose, but not in written form. Okay, most of the prose was in oral form, especially in the form of sermons. Okay, which were delivered by Prophet himself and by some eminent caliphs of the period. Okay, so that you need to keep in mind. Okay, then we come to the poetry of this period. الشعر العربي في العصر الإسلامي. Okay, الشعر العربي. Uh, Now prose we have talked about. Okay, and we mentioned that this al-khataba was the most important form. But what about poetry, and what type of poetry was there? What were the main features of the poetry? Okay, so of this period. So الشعر في صدر الإسلام ومميزاته. This you need to learn 2.2 العصر الإسلامي. الشعر في صدر الإسلام ومميزاته. What were the main features of poetry of Islamic period? Okay, we should be able to know it. And this one is know details are there in this 2.2. So then 2.3 نبذة عن حياة حسان بن ثابت الأنصاري وشعره. One of the greatest poets of Islamic period, which is being uh, who continues to appeal everyone today, is Hassan ibn Thabit al-Ansari, or Sha'ir al-Nabi, the poet of the Prophet. Also, he is called poet of the Prophet. So, uh, He was one of those who, in fact, time and again defended Prophet, and his poetry was popular among Prophet and Caliph also, okay, and other people of the period. So Hassan ibn Sabit is important, and his life and details about his life is given here. So I don't think we need to, go through it at this stage. Uh, but I can, say that uh, better you prepare uh, about him. You can make a note also, or as per your convenience you can, but you should prepare, okay. Al-Hassan ibn Thabit. Then another poet is 2.4. Here you see Hayat Ka'b ibn Zuhair. So his life and poetry and all that. Ka'b ibn Zuhair is another famous poet of Islamic period, and he too was, very uh, famous in defending the Prophet and highlighting the greatness and all the achievement of the time. And so you should read also Ka'b ibn Zuhair. Okay. So some you can find here namaths or examples from their poetry of these poets, eminent poets, and tadribat also some exercises. Uh, Again, the idea is to help you consolidate the learning and find you know some practice. Okay, you should practice, and these word meaning may perhaps will help you to understand the text also. Uh, but if you find these Arabic meanings incomplete or insufficient, so I think you should consult Arabic English dictionary, and there you will find the meaning. Okay, so uh, it is up to you. If you feel the need of having Arabic to English dictionary, so you should have. And in case of you don't have, so you can consult online dictionaries, and meanings of all these words, all the expressions usually used in Arabic poems here are available on net also. So I think, okay, you should take help of these sources and make preparation accordingly. So here you have at least a glimpse uh, of poetry and prose of the period of Islamic period, and also Jahili period. Now, what is the difference between both the periods? Okay, uh, is why there is less, you can say, less poetry during this period, Islamic period, in comparison to Al Jahiliyyah. Though we are not sure how much poetry we had, poems have reached us. Maybe much of poetry produced during the period would have been lost, because it's a long time. So since all this happened, so but still, whatever has reached to us, we can easily find that poetry or poems during Jahiliya period uh, are many, but poems of we have in comparison lesser poems during Islamic period. So what is the reason? Now, one of the important reasons may be the Quran itself, because when it was revealed, Arabs themselves they surrendered. Okay, they said, many of you, like Labid ibn Rabi'a, he said, now there is no more poetry from me. So now, after listening to these ayah and these verses and these beautiful line verses, I cannot So they completely you know some of them, they gave up the poetry itself. Okay, and then this tradition, Islamic tradition, during the period was not very encouraging, uh, towards the poetic tradition or poetic things. Okay, so poetry was not a primary thing, but it it was you can say that it was discouraged, especially the kind of the poetry like hija and retha and poetry of where condemnation of others and you know so much criticism of other people. And so there was a difference between the good poets and bad poets, okay, or good poetry and bad poetry. So uh, poetry which encouraged you can say certain immoral values was discredited and completely rejected, and the poetry which invited the people to the right path and which which had certain contained certain important moral lessons and values, so that was accepted, or poetry which was used for good cause and for good things, that was so. Here you in comparison to the al jahiliya, where you had all kind of poetry and different forms of, you had al ghazal, al wasf, al hamasa, al retha, al hija, okay, all kinds of poems you had during this period, during Islamic period. uh, these Much of these were rejected, and only few were accepted, okay, few more kinds of. So al madah, so you have the poems fi madah nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you have uh, but praising the kings and princes and great men, and always and getting reward, and using the poetry for personal gain and personal reward, and from self promotion or material gain was completely or discouraged, okay. So there was no such kind of environment there, okay, during Islamic period. So poetry, you can say in conclusion, got less attention, okay, during this period, less attention in comparison to Jahiliya period, when we mentioned that how poets after poets used to come and recite their poems in front of a panel of eminent judges, okay, who could appreciate their poetry, and other common people also used to gather in such a type of aswaq. Soke Okaz is very famous, okay, where the people used to come from far off flung areas and to listen to these uh, poems composed by some of the finest Arab poets and admire. So it was not only that certain class or certain section of society only enjoyed these poetic creation, poetic works, but even some common people also were very much enthusiastic about this poetry, and sometimes even each and every person of a family was a poet, okay, was had this poetic or this talent, okay. So used to compose some poems, and he or she got appreciation from family members, from their tribe, and from the people of other people of the society. So this was also poetry flourished because of the culture of the time, because of it got that much space in that society, and it was not there was no restriction, in fact, that this kind of poetry is acceptable, this kind of poetry is not acceptable, or this is a good poetry and that is bad poetry, okay. So this distinction was not there, and people had the full freedom to say whatever they want to say, or means what type of whatever means kind of the poetry that they wanted to recite, that was there. So the kind of, but with the revelation of Quran, with the arrival of prophet and his message, and then so it completely turned everything upside down, and the poetry which was so much Arabs were enthusiastic about, Arabs were completely obsessed with. Completely, it could not appeal means, that much. It no longer appealed the people. Rather, focus shifted to the verses of Holy Quran, to the sayings of the Prophet, to the great moral teaching that all these great text contained, and uh, poems and Arab poets themselves. In fact, some of them, they started reciting all these verses, and enjoying the beauty and of the text and everything. So that is most important a reason for lesser degree of poetic production during the period. So uh, and so far prose is concerned, prose during Islamic period was not written, as I mentioned. It was only in the form of sermons. Okay, uh, al-khataba or al-khutbah. Okay, al-khutbah. So khutbatul Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, khutbatul khulafa ar-rashidin, خاصة خطبة أبي بكر الصديق وخطبة عمر رضي الله عنه وخطبة Uthman radiallahu anhu wa khutbatu Ali radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Ali was very famous in his sermons, and especially his sermons related to the life, human life, like dunya, haqiqat dunya. Okay, truth about this life or this world uh, is are very famous. Okay, so he always highlighted the how mean are these things. Okay, and uh, how we they don't deserve as much attention of ours as we give to these trivial things of life. So in this he excelled, no doubt, and his khutbah or his sermon is recorded or considered even today one of the finest pieces of Arabic prose, khutbah Ali Razillahu ta'ala anhu. And then I have mentioned the khutbah or sermon by Prophet. He was you know uh, nobody could match, in fact, his eloquence and his style and his um, his appeal or the his at the depth. Okay, all these. So it was no doubt one of the finest, or it was the finest of all the khutbah that ever were produced in any period of history. So uh, this is uh, prose. Whenever there is something related to prose, somebody asks what is the prose. So prose is this. Okay, not written, not recorded in a written form, but always oral tradition. Okay, and in the form of sermon, which were delivered on different occasions by some of the by Prophet himself and other eminent caliphs of the periods, and other chief and commanders and other great personalities of this period. So all these khutbah or sermons are recorded in some of the finest literary works of Arabic period, Arabic, uh, and these books are available even today, and these khutbah or extracts of these sermons are taken from those books only. So I think you have got a clear picture of Arabic poetry from the Jahiliya period, Al-Asr al-Jahili, to the Islamic period, and you have also understood the an-Nasr or prose of the period. So I think uh, we have discussed this much, and always when doing all these, try to focus on Imrul Qais. He's very important poet, and his قصيدة قفا نبكي من ذكرى حبيبي ومنزلي بسق اللواء الدخول فحوملي بين الدخول فحوملي فتوضح فالمقراط لم يعفر اسمها لما نسجتها من جنوبي وشمالي are very important. In fact, they continue to ring in the ear of many great people even today. And no poet can be poet without being disciple of Imrul Qais. And whether we agree with him or disagree agree in certain things, some people say he had crossed the line, crossed the boundaries in projecting certain things which are not acceptable in society today, and which can be considered in like الشعر الإباحية. So الشعر الإباحي, or you can say bad poetry, okay, and which is not acceptable. But despite that, the kind of the simile and metaphor he is able to bring, and the kind of the beautiful expression that he could be able to bring to the, and the picture that he has or the description he has given is unmatched. Okay, is cannot be matched by anybody else. Uh, so he talks about horse and the way he describes horse, I don't think that anybody, in fact, any other poet could do it so beautifully and so effectively. So Imrul Qais is the master of all the poets. He is the Shakespeare of Arabic. So read him as much as you can. Islamic period, when it comes Hassan ibn Sabit, Thabit, Ka'b ibn Zuhair, these poets, hold the importance even today, and they. I think you should, prepare both of them. So in the next sessions, we will take up some other, some other units, and we'll discuss. But we do not have much time, in fact, to discuss and translate everything in detail and give you all that. It is not possible at this stage. But uh, whatever you want to, in fact, understand, you can take. If you can form a group and study, that is very good. If not, then at least you can take the help of internet, and there you'll find the translation of all these poems, all these texts, and try to learn from that, make effort, okay, because that is the only way you can become successful, by focusing on these important things that we have given you for your study. So before I uh, finish it, I would like you, in fact, to say something if you want. If you have any question or any like comments, or if you think that certain portions of whatever I have said is not clear, or anything, in fact, you are free to ask the question, and let me, I will explain to you right now. So, anything you want me to explain further, or any other question related to this course or program you want to ask, you are most welcome. So, anybody, any question? Does anybody have any question related to this, or related to this Arabic program, or any doubt, anything? Okay, if you don't have, then we will close here. We have some other works also to do just now. So we close here, and uh, hoping to see you in the next session. And uh, you always feel free to ask questions, uh, uh, because some students continue sometimes, ring me, they call me sometimes, they want certain clarification. But I will say that the students, here we are live with you. You can ask questions. If not today, then at least, uh, next session you should come with questions, and you are most welcome. Okay. So now we close, okay, the session. مع السلامة. See you next session.
Assalamu alaikum.